The True You podcast is all about tapping into the resources of the true you.
The problem with trying to be someone else who you think you need to be to get by and get more is that you have to try harder than you need to in life.
And that's exhausting because you've lost access to resources like creativity, clarity, compassion, and confidence.
We recognize it seems odd to discover that you aren't being the true you, but there's an empowering homecoming that you can feel when you rest back into your authentic self, the true you. Welcome to the True You podcast, another brilliant episode.
We shall see, right?
Well, I promise. I'm making a promise right from
it's quite a difference.
And the reason is because Bill Tierney, IFS coach and results producer, and me, Martin Kettelhut, as you know, author of Leadership as Relation. We're here today with Jason Blydell. Is that how you say it, by the way?
Yeah, Blydell. I think you got it.
Blydell,
Yeah.
Great. Good. So there you hear his voice. And he's also a coach, and we're really happy to have him with us today. And we're going to talk about the journey to the true you and these different coaching ways, the different ways coaching gets at the true you. And Jason's had a number of experiences that I hope he'll get to share with us too on his personal journey to the true him. So let me just read this introduction, and I'm just going to read for a second here just to get people oriented to you. Jason is a former two-sport Division I athlete and combat-tested Marine Corps officer who now guides leaders through deep inner transformation. After losing his father and the identities he once clung to, son, athlete, warrior, Jason embarked on a journey of profound healing, purpose, and spiritual awakening. Through his work at Gone Beyond Leadership, that's his coaching company, he helps high-performing leaders move beyond external achievement to reconnect with a deeper, truer source of power, leading from love, freedom, and wholeness. He's a devoted father of 4 kids, a husband, of course, and a warrior for the human spirit, standing for a new kind of leadership. Soulful, embodied, and unshakably rooted in truth. So that's who we got on the line today, folks.
I'm excited.
Nice. I'm fired up. Yeah. Thanks, Martin.
I was going to ask you, Jason, how was it to hear your own bio?
It was cool. I was kind of sitting in it and letting myself. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Cool.
Hmm.
Do you mind, Marty, do you mind if I ask a couple of questions that probably aren't going to be in the flow of what we end up talking about?
Well, let's let them be in the flow of what we're talking about. Go right ahead.
Well, a couple of things jumped out at me. The combat tested. I'd like to hear a little bit about that, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah. So I went to an Ivy League school, and everyone was like getting ready to get a job, and they were like investment banking, consulting. And I grew up, and my dad was a gym teacher. My mom was a dentist, a dental assistant, bartender. And I'm like, what are these jobs? I don't even know what the hell investment banking is. And I just happened to be reading this book, and it was about the story of a guy leading Marines in combat. And I got to the end of the book, and the author was a Dartmouth graduate. And that just kind of like, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to go lead Marines in combat. I want to have this experience of training. And yeah, that kind of set me off on this path. And I spent about 8 years in the Marine Corps as an infantry officer, led Marines on 2 different deployments to Afghanistan. And it was just it was everything. It was like a peak life experience from like an intensity perspective, from seeing like a third world country, a nation that's been war torn forever. And then just seeing like the heart of humanity too, at the core of it all. And I was, leading these missions for, there were 7-month deployments, as like a 23-year-old, it was just like a real dive into like, here you go, like go lead and accomplish the mission. So yeah, it was a huge,
with
it really shaped
everything
my
at
experience.
stake.
Yeah, with life at stake.
Yeah,
Oh,
with by
man.
mistake. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Incredible.
And
How old are you now?
is that contributed to your true you?
Yeah. In a lot of ways, like in one, like a deep reverence for life, like in a really raw way. Like one of my best friends, my platoon sergeant, he was killed in combat on a mission, and he was an incredible father, like just an amazing father of three, and I had gotten close with his kids and his wife, and fatherhood has been a huge component of my journey of being human and what it means to be human, um, and I hold so much more reverence in that role because of that in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I bet.
Go ahead, Noah.
You said you were 23 when this was happening, and you did it for about 8 years. That
Yeah.
put you at about 31 then, by the time you got out of the Marines.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Just about. Yep.
And you're how old now?
I'm going to be 40 in July.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big milestone.
It is. I'm
Yes.
excited.
And I'm going to say this, and I don't know if I can. I'll just say it. I mean, I so appreciate the sacrifice that you made to do that. I so appreciate and so value our freedom, and I recognize that lives have been lost for it. So I just want to acknowledge you and everyone else that does that for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Received. I appreciate that. And I always say this, and I really mean it, like so sincerely. Like it was like an honor and a gift of an opportunity for me to have that experience to lead Marines and to be of service. And now I can I have a bit of an elevated perspective on global operations and war. And would I choose that path? I don't know. But at the time, I know I was choosing from like a deep place of wanting to be of service. And I could see the goodness in a lot of the work that was being done. Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of history has passed since then in the world, in our local politics, and that could be a complete different conversation, which I'd also love to have with you. But I'll hand it back to Marty here to guide the conversation around true you.
Well, I would like to pick up where we left off before we pressed record. We were talking about similarities and differences in our upbringing as coaches. And one thing that we have in common, so maybe we could use that as a point of departure in the conversation, is ontological coaching. And it might even be a good way to start by just having us each give our take on what that is and then go from there. And you could start, Jason.
Ooh. Yeah. So
But
I
doesn't
love,
mean be.
yeah, no, I love, the way I think about ontological work, like two things jump out is one is just fundamentally distinguishing where we're coming from, where we're showing up in the world. Like, are we showing up from our true nature, from the essence of who we are, or from these parts, our egoic parts that are protecting ourselves and, just creating defensive structures. So that's like one component, probably the one that like really hit home for me, like connecting to that essence and being like, oh, wow, I can just show up and like be that. And I don't need to like try and perform and do all these things to be successful. And then the other piece, which I think is just like super fun, but I think it can get us into a bit more of the mental aspect of it, is just being able to distinguish our relationship to everything. How are we actually relating to people, partners, ourselves, the world around us, all these different structures. So those are the kind of two things that I hold around the ontological lens.
So K comes before T, so I get to go next.
Oh, great.
You'll have nothing left for you, Bill.
Oh, there'll be plenty.
Yeah.
Yes, there will.
Well, I totally agree with the two things you said. One of the things that really amazes me about ontological coaching and ontology in general is that it seems to be what causes the difference. It has causal power, right? And this is one of the things that I think sometimes when people talk about ontological coaching, kind of gets lost. Like, who are you being in the matter? like, well, I'm going to be my best, or, I'm going to be joyful. Or something. That is what makes the difference. Like, that is what produces a difference, how you be. And, I can give lots of examples, but some of the main ones for me come from my personal life. Like, I went from a career as an academic, so I was being academic, right, to being of service, right? And the difference in the results that get produced, like a stack of papers versus, people making more money, people living more joyfully, people being more fulfilled, businesses being built. Like, the difference in the result is amazing, and that's because of who I was being, the difference in who I was being. So that's one of the main things that just delights me about being in ontological coaching.
So I'll jump in. I have to include some history too, just to maybe provide some context around what a juggernaut this has been for me to even wrap my mind around what the hell is ontological coaching. Of course, I know what it is now, but when I entered into the coach training program, accomplishment coaching, in 2015, and I heard language that I wasn't accustomed to hearing before, context and ways of being. It really took a lot for me to even understand really what was being discussed here. I had mentioned just before we hit record that I had been a part-time coach for about 4.5 years while I was still working full-time as a mortgage loan officer when I began my coaching practice. And I just used everything everything that I had discovered that had worked for me. So little bits of landmark education, which of course is ontological, little bits of Byron Katie, which just helps to challenge beliefs and in effect changes our way of being, of course. Everything from 12-step that actually stuck and worked for me after, by that time, about 30 years, I suppose, of involvement in 12-step. And so accomplishment coaching introduced me, as Landmark did, to these concepts and these ideas of just what both of you have said. And at the core of it for me, what I now understand and what I began to understand then was that there is one true, authentic, essential version of myself that when I am being that, as you say, Marty, when I'm being that attracts to me anything and everything that the way I think about it is that I'm supposed to be involved with. And it all culminates in this present moment. And so when I'm helping my coaching clients now, especially since just months after I completed that coach training program, I found that I was floundering. I'd lost what I previously had felt was confidence that I earned from being a good coach and actually helping people. Going through that coach training program with the accomplishment coaching, I just really floundered because, and I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now, because I was so triggered from my trauma of growing up in an alcoholic, violent family. I was so triggered with the things that were being discussed and the things I was being asked to consider and to do that I lost every bit of confidence that I had. And I had, by then, had already quit my mortgage originator job. So I was desperate to build a coaching practice and terrified of asking anybody to hire me as a coach because I felt like a fraud. So that threw me into IFS, internal family systems. And when that happened, everything changed. And almost immediately, what previously had been merit-based, performance-based confidence that I had earned now became an expression of my core essence.
That's great. So I think Jason has a few things to say to you about that. And then I would invite you, Jason, to tell us more about where you've taken that in your own journey, in your own practice.
Yeah. I appreciate so much of what you both shared. Like the thing I really took away from the last, where you kind of took that, Bill, was like this work, like our being can really come through so powerfully when we can take all of these like modalities or structures or tools, and really integrate them in a way that like just flows through us as like, this is, yeah, I've learned all these things. I understand these things in different ways, but like, can they flow through me, through like a presence that nobody can bring into a space other than I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I love like, so yeah, like this past year, I've really transitioned into, and it's been really confronting for me, like moving away from, like trying to move away from ontological work in the sense of like guiding people deeper into like their actual experience of what's happening right now. Cause I think we spend so much time in our mind trying to think about like what's next, trying to understand things, trying to figure it out, trying to rationalize it. And that's all good and valuable and useful. But I find that it kind of keeps us in this same like self-improvement paradigm. We're always like kind of just doing something to like fix some deeper self-deficiency. And we kind of just end up staying on that hamster wheel over and over again. So the work that I'm really leaning into right now is, I'd say it's like a presence-centric approach, which is like, can I bring people into like what it's like to actually be them? And can we actually tap into that like right now, right here between the two of us in this space? And that it's not me like coaching from distance or seeing context that they can't see. It's me being like right here with them, understanding what it's like to be them and helping them actually by like feeding back what I'm hearing and trying to understand what it's like to be them. They actually continue to drop deeper into what it's actually like to be them. And it's been such a gift for me to like spend my time in that space. Cause it's like, it's almost a deeper level of like not having to try or do. It's like actually like touching what it feels like to be me, literally somatically, from a process perspective. And then from a parts perspective, like when I'm really dropping into what's here right now, how, more often than not, there's a part that's triggered and alive and active. And it's like, wow, amazing. What a gift to like notice that and actually work with it right now while it's here. And then see what unfolds from that. So yeah, that's kind of like, I'm excited about that. And it's scary supporting people in that way for me.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I went from the standard ontological approach to the content of my first book, which is a summary of what I'd been doing in my coaching for about 10 years, which is the name of the book is Listen Till You Disappear. Like you disappear and you become the same experience as the person that you disappeared. Right? That was the idea. And it is the idea. And one of the things, landmark that impressed me so much in the training, there was this exercise where you recreate the other person, right? You're being so with them that and we would practice this as leaders in the organization. Like somebody would start naming colors and you would repeat them back. You'd recreate the color that they were naming. They were random. And you would get to a point where you could anticipate the color. Like you would say red before they said red. And it was just like red, green, yellow, blue, blue. Like you'd just catch up and be in their being. Yeah. It was amazing. And that so impressed me that became the way that I coach, right? Just listening until my ego disappears and I'm there for them. Well, and it's scary. Like I loved what you said. It's scary, for them too sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like as coach, I think a lot of times we could even be doing really powerful ontological work and like step back, but we can always kind of see like where the conversation can go. But like in this lens, I'm really committed to like whatever unfolds going in that direction. And like, and there is no, the same idea, the same way you would work with a part, which is like to work with the part powerfully. Like I can't have a change agenda. Otherwise it feels that and it's just going to clash. So it's like, can I be with this person too without any change agenda? And that almost goes against the whole context of coaching, which is like we're always trying to change something. But it's one of the more beautiful paradoxes I've tapped into because it's like when I think just like nature, when we don't change things change.
Right. Well, I think it is that recreation, that mirroring that causes a moment of where things are no longer going to be the same. It doesn't cause an agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't flow in any particular direction, but it means things must change
Yeah.
because we've already gotten this moment. So now the next moment is wide open.
Yeah.
That's how it occurs for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally occurs that way. And it's when you do that, like we're actually creating space for like our wholeness to express itself more and more. And it just emerges and you're like, oh, that's been here all along. And then when people can actually start to notice that and feel it, and then you guide them into that, like deep into that experience to embody, whatever they're feeling, whether it's strength, compassion, confidence, like they literally recognize that that's what they are and they always have been, but they, from a really deeply embodied sense, not just like an intellectual, yeah, I'm strong. It's like, no, I can feel it in my body right now. How
I'm going to fake some strength here.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
What are you hearing, Bill?
Several things. Well, one of the things I want to comment about is your comfort in talking about parts, and I'm curious about that. How do you know about parts?
Yeah. I had a coach who would dangle the idea of parts with me, and it really resonated, and I started to just drop into some really deep emotional space and being like, what? And then I started to work with a therapist who did parts work, and I would literally snap of a fingers be deep into my experience and be and frankly, more often than not, in a puddle of tears, connecting so beautifully to these parts of me from high school as a young boy. And it created so much space in what I actually wanted, where I wanted to go, the action, whatever it was I needed to do, it just started to flow so much more naturally. And so yeah, I've read, all of Richard Schwartz's stuff, and I've done I'm in a program now, a coaching container, where the heart of the work is in this present-centric approach, to go deeper into the depths. It basically has 4 layers to it. So you can work with the person you're working with, you meet them where they're at. So they might be at the depth of parts, the depth of process, the depth of presence and absence, or the depth of non-duality. And you could be in any of those parts. But if somebody is at the depth of parts, we've got to meet them at that depth, or we're, ontological or contextual conversations is just going to get just met with resistance. And that's kind of what I've found in my own work too.
Mm-hmm. What program are you referring to?
Steve March's work with Aletheia.
Aletheia. Okay.
Yeah. I found it to be really grounded and connected and beautiful. And
yeah. I'm somewhat familiar and love it. Love what I know about it. Yeah. I'll make sure that Ari puts a link for that into our show notes. The other thing that I'm sitting with is scary. The word scary. You both agreed that it's scary. And I can find scary in terms of having these deep conversations. But I'm curious what that looks like for you, Jason. What's scary about doing this depth of work?
Yeah. Great question. I think it's in the contextual nature. I have a natural propensity to be able to kind of jump in and always guide, support, lead, make sure we're moving in a direction that's feels useful. But when I'm mirroring someone's experience, it almost feels like I'm wasting time. What are we doing here? How is this valuable? And it's always triggering that part of me that's where are we going? Where's this going to go? What's going to be the outcome? So it's scary because I literally am really surrendering to the present moment and what continues to unfold. And I don't know what the hell that's going to be or what we're going to be working with.
That's the part for me is the not knowing. I find myself preparing for a coaching call. What did they say last time? What do I need to talk about? Where does this need to go? And then I go, wait a minute, stop it. Yeah. Just go meditate until the moment the phone rings and then just be there.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. I'm used to having a script or a paper to read in the academy, and so that's a big part of the scariness for me. It's like, don't know, just be there.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a couple of different answers from both of you. One from you and one from and I'm distinguishing them a bit. Tell me if I'm right about this, if I'm hearing it accurately. But Jason, I'm hearing that for you, what's scary is there's a part of you that wonders if there's any value in staying in the present moment.
Yeah. 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 That part gets really activated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's time to update that part. Are you open to having that part updated right now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm always up for anything, man.
Before we go there, let's just see where your self energy is. I have a guess as to where it is. I'm going to give you a scale.
Yeah.
And the scale is 1 to 5. And do you know what I mean by self energy?
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 would be that you have probably no access to self energy.
Yeah.
And 5 would be one of those peak moments when you're with one of your daughters or your son.
Yeah.
Or where you're just really connected.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just an amazing moment that if you tried to duplicate it, you couldn't.
Yeah.
So that's a 5. Where would you put yourself right now?
I feel pretty grounded. I feel pretty in my body. And I also feel, a part of me that's wants to be performative in this conversation. So I'd say like between a 3 and a 4.
Okay. All right. Yeah. For me, to be between a 3 and a 4 is ample self energy.
Yeah.
To be able to access wisdom and so many of the resources that are available from that self energy. So having said that, having established there's plenty of self energy here, what do you want to say to this part about the value of being in the present moment?
Yeah. I would say there is no other moment. Like, this is where life happens. And, yeah, I would say like, it's okay to put down wherever you need to go, wherever you think you want to go. Like, you can trust that this is the place to be right now. And this is where you want to be. And this is where this person needs you to be. Yeah.
Do you mind if I go just one more step further with
No,
this?
keep going. Yeah.
All right. How does the part react to that? Does the part accept that?
I think it does. I think it, yeah, I think I've got some trust with this part.
Yeah, that's so key.
I think it wants to be, yeah, I sense that it like wants to be skeptical, and I'm like, okay with that, but can it allow me to like really like, can it take a step back and give me the space to like do my work? And it's, yeah, I sense it can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've earned that.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this part, they trust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I said that is so key. If we haven't earned the trust by really getting to know these parts, and then we ask them to step back and stop doing what they're doing, they may agree just because they want to please us or because there's another part of us that wants to overpower them.
Yeah.
But they're gonna keep doing their job. They might have to flank it. They might have to do it a different way, but they're gonna keep doing their job. So thanks for going there with me, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll cheat off of that. Like, something that comes up for me is like, one of the ways I think about my work is like, how can I really help people cultivate a beautiful interior world? And I'm inspired a lot by John O'Donohue and his poetry and his work, and like, Part's work is such beautiful access to that. Cause it's like nothing, I don't need to fix that part. I don't need to make it go away. I don't need to hate it. Like, all I need to do is just really get it, acknowledge it. Can I just love it and understand it and value it for what it's trying to do? And just that simple act of loving and valuing and understanding it, there's a natural melting, a natural dissolving. And we can do that all day with all our experience, like all the places we're feeling stuck, blocked, impeded. We can meet it with understanding and love and acknowledgement. And it's such a gift.
Part of the true you exploration is into the leader that you are. We are experiencing a crisis in leadership in the world right now, partially because of disconnection, separation, disenfranchisement. One of the themes in my book is how to experience true connection and become an effective leader. The name of the book is Leadership as Relation. And now back to the show.
Yeah.
And it melts and dissolves.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for you, Marty, it was I don't know. The scary is I don't know. You talked about preparing.
It's and I think it's mixed with, like you mentioned, use the word performative part. Like that's the part that I think is the most scared. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I'm supposed to perform. I'm getting paid for this, and I don't know what.
Me too.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say, I noticed as you were the two of you were just interacting, that the whole world got updated.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
When self energy is present, self expands generally.
Yeah.
And I felt that happen for me, and probably for our listeners too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. No, thanks for the reflection, because I think about when he asked me the question, I just by bringing my attention to that part, like I closed my eyes and went in, and you just drop into a different space. That is that energy of who we are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for indulging that.
I want to go back just because I love it, to something, and if it's not where the conversation needs to go, we can shift again. But to that moment of mirroring somebody so accurately or intensely, or I'm not sure what word to use there. Beautifully is the word I'd like to use, honestly. That and we said, like, from there, anything becomes what shows up as possibility. And what interests me about that is that I notice that when I'm recreated, I get creative. Like, now I can generate something new. And I just wonder, like, is that your experience? What evidence do you have for that, both of you?
Yeah, like what I find is, like, when I'm working with someone at the depth of process and really like mirroring and following what's coming up for them in their mind, or what they're like, the felt sense in their body, it either goes into two places. Like, it either triggers a part, and then we move into like structural work to like meet that part and work with it, or it drops deeper into presence and absence, where they can really feel into something deep and profound and beautiful. And then from that place, that's where so much possibility creates. And it's a natural resource state. So when someone like embodies that felt sense of presence, like there's different qualities of presence, right? Whatever that quality is that they can actually embody, like it is literally resourcing them in the moment, and they can actually come out of that conversation like from a resource state, and not like, a lot of times I think I've myself experienced it, and with clients, like they're almost like been through the ringer after a coaching call, trying to like mentally figure everything out. And it's like, they're drained. I did not resource them in any way whatsoever. And it's like, shit.
Yeah.
Let's stay with that for a moment. I just have a question for you about that. When you say you did not resource them, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it's like let me just use an example of a client I've been working with for like 2 years now. And like, to be really honest, like he was committed. We're going at it. Like, he was doing his work, but like he could not create the result. It was like basically just like keep coming up against that resistance, that wall, inner critic, all the things getting in the way of what he wanted. And we were working with it, like, but at the truth was, we kept getting sucked back into a change agenda, and like looking at context and who he's being, and and it was just so much effort and work. It was actually like sucking the life energy out of him being in that process. And then as I started to just like literally in the heart of our work, just slowly progress and shift into inviting him in to be with these parts and to slow down and to drop into his body, there was just this like complete natural melting and unfolding into like a softening of his inner world. And as soon as that softened, like he could actually start to like step into some of these things he wanted to. He could actually like, he had space to hold a belief that we'd been talking about for years but now he had space to actually like do that work with his mind. That's kind of
Create himself.
yeah, he could actually create himself. He could actually see something differently because there was like a new resourced capacity to do that.
Yeah, see, I think that this moment, sorry, Bill, part of the reason why this fascinates you so, because I think this is the moment where we're in the presence of, or we are embodying divinity, like total, the omnipotence
Yeah.
that's available.
Yeah.
And that's why it fascinates me so much.
Yeah. I mean, to love a part of us that literally causes havoc or totally disrupts our life, whether it drives us into addiction or crushes relationships, to turn our attention to that and love it unconditionally is nothing but what you're pointing to, Marty. Yeah. It's
Divinity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to put a cap on what I understand now, based on the question that I asked and how you answered, when I asked, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that you left your client unresourced, or you didn't resource them? That's what you said. Now I understand that you meant what I would have meant, which is that you didn't help your client to access the resources that they had built right in.
Yeah.
It's not that you were providing resources.
Yeah. They actually
recognize
recognize the resourcefulness of their own being.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your job as coach was to help them to get there.
Guide. Yeah. Like I have a shitty relationship with the word coach.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Why?
Like I prefer to be like a guide or a partner. And not from like a cheesy place. It's like, I'm guiding you either like deeper into contact with yourself, guiding you, along this journey of, your version of self-mastery, or partnering with you to just really be someone that could, like, truly partner on whatever we're trying to create. And because coach just like creates that power gap where there's like something I have that you don't have. And it's just not true. I take that back. It can be true. I actually know coaches who are incredibly powerful and do that work, and it makes a difference, but it's just not the way I want to serve people. Yeah.
Got it. I like guide.
Well, a coach in athletics is different. There is a difference. There are a lot of similarities, but there is a difference. Right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So there's like an incredible article. I try to find it for you guys, but it breaks through like these like 4 generations of coaching. And the first generation is basically like the traditional athletic coaching model. And then you go to the next, I forget what the second generation is, but the third is like ontological, contextual. You're like really moving into something deeper. But then the fourth, the author proposes that like a present-centric approach is like that 4th generation of like true partnership that breaks down all of those barriers that are created in those earlier generations. Yeah.
I'm probably lived through the first 4 at least.
Yeah. And I have a lot of clients that come from, like the achievement, high performance world. They're former athletes, military, and it's like they have created a perception of me of like that's how I am going to be as their coach. So there's a lot of work in like creating a new relationship for them to actually relate to me differently and create something different.
Yeah.
Have you got something to go with next here, Marty? Because I have one thing I want to go to, but it's not important. If you have something,
no, go right ahead. I'll just be in the not knowing, the scary not knowing.
Oh, by the way, I did want to give you a reflection about that if you're open to it.
I know you did. I tried to move the conversation.
I'm sorry to leave you hanging there. So often when I'm working with my clients, I don't want to make this about me, but I do want to just put in a completion to that part of the conversation. Okay, good. Often when I'm working with a client who feels overwhelmed by what is being demanded of them, the part of them that's feeling overwhelmed should feel overwhelmed because it's not old enough to be able to do what you've asked it to do, or that what it thinks it's supposed to be doing. So you're with a coaching client, and I know that you happen to be in your 60s, even though you only look like you're in your 40s. You're in your 60s. You've had a lot of life's experience. You're in your 7th decade. And my guess would be that you would discover that this is a very young part of you that doesn't know how to be in his 60s, but is trying very hard to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reflection I have for you. And it would be great to explore and find out at some point. Because if the part gets the update that there's actually a 60-plus-year-old man that's got lots of life experiences that's very capable of coaching people and has done so successfully for 25 plus years,
Yeah.
that part might relax and decide to go play instead.
Well, I think that's happened many times. Maybe there's we need to find something other than just going out to play, like a permanent place for it to be employed, other than either worrying about whether I'm prepared for a performance or just playing. Like maybe there's some place where that part could find a home forever.
And it would know once it relaxes and realizes, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. It'll know what it wants to do. And there may be a very useful thing that it wants to do to help you in your adult life, like be playful in your coaching sessions.
Right. Yeah. I will reflect on that, because like I say, that part and I have been to this place many times, and then he goes out to play, but he comes back. So I got to find that more enduring, sustained place for him.
Yeah. What's happening over there, Jason?
You said the word performance, Marty, when you were talking, and it like created this big idea in my head, which is like, that's the nature of like, and I'm going to speak to my experience, but also generalize for like men. Like in what I see with a lot of men, it's like performance is like the only thing we've learned how to do and be in the world, is to like perform and always be on. And I think like there's so many ways of coaching that I'm performing as coach and clients performing for me, and we're just staying in the same damn game. Whereas like when we can actually drop in and tap into what it feels like to just be me right now, and to let that be okay, whatever is arising, whatever fucked up thought, whatever feeling we can't make sense of, that's like the only time. So I really believe sometimes for clients, it's like the only time in their life they've ever dropped that performance part and just like actually experienced in that moment what it was like to be them. So yeah, I don't know. And I think like, definitely don't have to go in this direction, but I'm having like a radical experience like in my sexuality that is making that really obvious, into like how that performative nature has destroyed something that is incredibly beautiful for most of my life.
Yes, please. Let's go in that direction.
Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes left here. So with that in mind, let's open up that and look at it.
Yeah. Do you want me to just dive in, or do you have a curiosity?
Please do. No.
Yeah. So like I've also dabbled a lot in like structures of my processes, psychedelics, plant medicine, breath, and a lot of these have brought me deeper into my body, and with them have been restrictions around, dieting and sexual activity. And it's happened a few times over the last years, but this last encounter over the last month, I couldn't have sex, but I was like, I'm going to be with my wife and not orgasm. And I found it to be the most erotic, intimate, passionate, beautiful sexual experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, nothing changed. All I did was actually not let the excitement of the outcome drive me to like end it and be like enforce that. Instead, I just relaxed into this like intense energy in my body, stayed with it and moved through it. And then I started to find that like, holy shit, every day I was like, not only like insanely connected and intimate and desiring my wife in a way I never have. But I was also like filled with this like insane creative energy to like just bring it into my work. And like, I was not tired. I was lit up. And it's like a big experiment for me this year. Like, how much can I stay embodied in that sexual energy and not make sex about a performance, about something I need to do, about something I need to do for myself or for my wife? Can I really just like and the outcome of that was just like such a depth of presence and an aliveness in my whole body. So yeah, and I just see that as like such a metaphor for like, I don't know, everything we're doing in life.
Say more about that. I like that too, because what got us here was my performative part in this conversation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think there's like, so the nature of sex is like, there's an intensity to that energy, obviously, but we could bring that same intensity to a coaching conversation, to being with someone at the grocery store, to bumping into someone down the road. Like, can we actually feel what it feels like to be in contact with that person right now? And it certainly most likely won't have the intensity of a sexual engagement, but like it can be pretty damn close if we allow it to be. And actually, I would even argue we could, if we're paying attention, we can really like transmute and channel that sexual energy into all of these other endeavors that we're taking on, into people in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, it might even we might have to take the word sexual out of it just to get into it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I've had that sort of experience in conversation with somebody, there was no sex, but it felt really almost as if I've had that experience cooking dinner, just like being so intimate with what I was doing, the smells and the coordination and the timing and the taste and all of that. A walk in the woods can be like that. I mean, so I think and now after saying that, now I can say, yeah, well, that was like sex. This is a sexual experience with life. But I think sometimes when we talk about it, like in my men's group, we say, well, it's a sexual experience. Well, then it's so hard to get into it when you think of it that way.
Yeah. I think it's the same thing. It's like the cooking of a meal. It's like, you're not sitting there worried about how the meal is going to come out or if it's going to taste good for somebody. And you're not thinking about when it's going to be over, if you're getting too excited. You're literally just like immersed in cooking the damn food and being there. And that's
right.
So beautiful. Yeah.
It can go on forever.
Yeah. And apparently sex can too, is what I'm finding out.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just on another note, there are certain schools of thought that I've heard this from very different directions that encourage men to save that moment, the orgasm, so that the energy gets into the whole system and you experience more of like what you've been describing, the sustained creative, place.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I think I have a bunch of intentions, but there's definitely, and I'm familiar with that idea, which is like, can we channel that life force energy into our creativity and basically like enhance our consciousness? It's a tool to like deepen our consciousness. But for me, I'm actually like, it's more of a commitment to like, how much more can I deepen and pour love into my wife from that energy? Instead of like just using the metaphorical terms, the orgasm of energy, like going out and being depleted and being gone for a period of time. Can I keep that energy flowing and just continuing to pour into her, be of service? And it's like, I was doing things like I'm not even drinking coffee right now, but I'd wake up and make her coffee out of like an act, like a real genuine act of love and intimacy, where in the past it might have been, I just been like, all right, I'm good. Like, I'm just going to go do my thing. But there's just more of that energy, like pouring love towards her.
Generosity, love.
Yeah.
Generous love. And I'm hearing a tie in with what you're talking about right now, with what you were talking about earlier when we were talking about parts. And that's the change agenda is very similar here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the absence of the agenda to have an orgasm and get this sex thing over with so I can go to sleep, that, or get the meal eaten so we can clean up and be done. Any of that takes away from all the way back to the very beginning of this conversation, presence.
Yeah.
Being here with what's going on right now without an agenda present. And of course, that's applied to parts work too. If I go in to support a client who has come to me as a coach because they want to make changes in their lives, and I hold that agenda tightly and make sure that everything that we're talking about and every moment that we spend talking is in the service of achieving that result, then there's no way to achieve it because I'm holding it way too tightly.
Yeah.
The agenda's there. It's got to be there, really, in a coaching relationship. However, the irony of it, the paradox of it, is that if we hold it too tightly, if we don't suspend the agenda of change, we'll never get there.
Yeah. I love that, Bill. Yeah. I like to say, take the goal or the direction we're moving very seriously and hold it very lightly so we can do this work right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then just notice, where are we on the journey? If I'm traveling from, in my area, a good way to measure this on I-90 is Spokane to Seattle takes about 4 hours. And there are mile markers along the way that, an hour down the road, I'm going to be in Ritzville from Spokane. And 2.5 hours down the road, I'll be in Moses Lake, and so on and so forth. So if in that coaching relationship, I am with a client and we do just exactly, I love how you said that, take this seriously, but hold it loosely. Then every once in a while, once we have some insight, once we have some awareness, once we have some expansion, some melting, some dissolving, some unfolding, some softening, and some spaciousness.
Yeah.
Those are your words I wrote down. I love them all.
Yeah.
Then we can check and look at, where's the mile marker now? Where are we?
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Yeah. And like, I hold like inside of that container with that serious goal that's held lightly, there's like our capacity to create a daily intention that moves us in that direction. And then our ability to review how that day went, to actually notice like, hey, what parts got triggered? What internally is actually getting in the way of me taking the appropriate steps to bring that thing to life? And then I'm like, cool. That's amazing. The more you find those internal impediments, that's beautiful work, because I can help you with that. We can work with that. And that's the gold. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It's exactly what we want.
It's exactly what, I'm trying to think up an analogy, but what I want to say is that's the stuff of the return to yourself.
Yeah.
Now, there's one major problem with this whole approach. That approach being, let's be present and let's just really sink as deeply into that as we possibly. Is that time flies by. Guess what time it is?
Speaking of which,
Right.
How do people get in touch with you, Jason?
Yeah. BLYDELL. And my email is just jason.blydell@gmail.com. And my email is just jason.blydell.
Anything else that you want our listener to know? Anything you'd like to leave us and our listeners with?
Just an invitation to be a warrior for the human spirit. Like, the world needs more warriors right now. So if there's something you feel challenged by or called towards, to let it actually propel you into being a warrior for the human spirit. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
So great to meet you.
Yeah.
I hope that we get to connect again in the future. This has been fabulous.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.